Hello and welcome to Friday Live. I am your host, Strata lawyer Amanda Farmer. Good afternoon, everybody. We're heading out live here today to the Your Strata Property Facebook page. We're going out to LinkedIn, heading out to YouTube, reaching all the Strata corners. How you doing? How has your week in Strata been? We are back this Friday with one of our longish chats. Some of you may have been prepped and primed for an Ask Amanda Now session. I did get a few people popping questions into my inbox, but today has presented a fabulous opportunity to actually bring you a special guest to Friday Live. So I've switched up the calendar a little bit and we are having a longer chat here today. I'll be filling you in shortly on who our special guest is. If you are coming in, I can see those live eyes coming in already. Feel free to drop me a hello here in the comments on Facebook. I can see those comments on LinkedIn as well, on YouTube, if that is where you are. Would love to know that you're here and tuning in. How is the weather where you are? Is it hot? I know generally across New South Wales, I think it's been very hot with more hot weather on the way. We are definitely heading into the peak of summer and gearing up for our festive season, our Christmas holidays. Many strata management businesses shutting up shop in a week or so. I saw some auto replies come through today that there's a few businesses having their Christmas lunch. So I hope you're out there having fun if that's what you're up to today. Michelle and I will be in Sydney this day, 2 weeks' time, I think, enjoying our end of year get together. Might be able to pop in and say a quick hello on that Friday afternoon. Vivian is here saying good afternoon, Amanda, and hot here. Yeah, I bet it is. Michelle, hey Michelle, how are you? Saying 30 degrees in Orange. I think I'm a couple of hours away from Michelle, and I think we were looking at about 38. About 38. It's hot here. We've definitely got the aircon going at the moment. I tend to have the fan going for most of the day on high speed, but so as not to interfere with our microphone here on live, I've switched over to the aircon. I was definitely turning that temperature down. Diane, lovely to have you with us, saying afternoon on a hot, sunny Sydney day. Yes, we are getting closer and closer to the end of the year. Busy time. So I so appreciate those of you who are taking the time out to be here live. If you're catching the replay over the weekend, feel free to send me a hello here as well. I love seeing those hellos. We will have definitely at least one more Friday Live chat before Christmas. So that'll be next Friday, maybe an Ask Amanda Now session, and then we're likely to have a couple of weeks off, and definitely a couple of weeks off the podcast in that Christmas week and that New Year period. My office is closing for 3 weeks. My legal office closes for 3 weeks over that New Year period. But as always, I remain available to the members inside our online membership community. That forum keeps running hot over the holiday break, and I'm in there answering questions, strata questions for our members. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about our online membership community a bit later today, so stay tuned for that. We do have a guest today for the first time on Friday Live in a little while. We have a special guest. I'll be introducing our guest to you soon. But first, this week's podcast episode. Have you managed to catch that one yet? I was interviewing Joe Hall of Ground Floor Parcel Lockers, a Melbourne business that is installing parcel lockers in our residential strata buildings across Australia. And these things are really cool. I didn't realize the tech that went into this system until I started talking to Joe and had a bit more of a poke around about what they're doing. Have a listen if you haven't already. Rochelle has the link here for you that she'll pop into the chat. But Joe and I talked about how our buildings can be ensuring security, can be better managing parcel deliveries when we have so many these days with the online world. Many, many deliveries coming to our residents from their online orders, especially at this time of the year. And we talk a bit about how I think, and Joe certainly thinks, that can expose our owners' corporations, our building managers, our concierges, committee members who are having to deal with these to a certain level of risk when you have these valuable parcels lying around on the common property. So ground floor has come up with a pretty neat solution to that, which really doesn't involve much input, much change of behavior at all from residents when they are ordering their parcels, but make sure that you've got that security for those parcels when they turn up at the building through the courier company. So very, very cool idea. If you haven't managed to listen to the episode, or you prefer to read your podcast episodes, then you can certainly get the transcript for that podcast episode as well. Not sure if all of you realize that we do have the podcast transcripts available to you as well. I want to say something else about transcripts in just a sec. I'll come back to that, but I'm seeing some hellos come in here to our chat through Facebook. Anna is here saying, "Hi, Amanda. Finally, I'm back. How I've missed these sessions. Well, it's a good day to be back. Anna, welcome back. We've missed you." Cheryl is here saying, "Hello. I don't have volume for you." Oh, okay. I'm assuming everyone else is hearing me okay. So we'll leave you to work that one out, Cheryl. Hopefully, you can get me in your ears very soon. Okay, transcripts. Now, many of you have been asking, especially the last few weeks. There's been some requests in my inbox, in our support inbox. You've been asking for transcripts of our Friday live sessions, whether that's a short answer in our Ask Amanda Now or the longer sessions that we do here, like this one today. You've been asking Rochelle, my support team, me, how do I access the transcript? Where is the transcript? And it might be because the content that we've been delivering through our Friday Lives lately has been so juicy. I have been going deep on a number of controversial Strata topics, and you're telling me that you want these transcripts so that you can share them with your fellow committee members, with your Strata manager, with other owners, with owners who are in other buildings, friends of yours. We do transcripts for the podcast episodes, definitely. And there's always a link to access the transcript under each podcast episode over on the website. We also do transcripts of the member video content that is inside our member library. We don't otherwise do transcripts yet of our Friday Live sessions. It's not a super simple process to produce a transcript. It does require the attention of our team. Those automated transcript services only do so much, and it's important that we get the content in those transcripts correct and with as few typos as possible. If there's typos in the transcripts, you guys tell me. You do. You're in my inbox saying, "Amanda, this transcript didn't make any sense," or "it said this and it should have said that." So we're very conscious to get that right for you. But what I can say is this week we have decided that we will add transcripts for our Friday Live sessions into our member library. Now, for our members, we already put the replays, the recordings of these videos, these sessions into our member video library, and we pop the links under there to any of the resources that are mentioned in the session. There's now going to be, for our members, an additional link under the videos that will be accessible to our members that you can click on there and access the transcript of this Friday live chat. What I'm going to do for anyone who, many of you who tune in, I know are members. I'm seeing Diane say, "I'm amazed you offer transcripts as they're labor intensive, but do appreciate the valuable content." Yes, I know, Diane, you've got special access to those transcripts. I'm just going to share my screen for anyone who, just fix that one up. Anyone who is a member already inside our community and is not quite sure what I'm talking about when I talk about the member video library. So when you hit your member homepage, you have the option to go to members only videos. And we've got at least two different types of videos in here. We have member calls and we have the videos of these Friday Live chats. So many of you I know as members tune in religiously to these member calls. We produce one about every 2 weeks or so. There is a new member call. We have recorded, as you can see, we're up to number 93 there that has been posted. And these are recordings of my one-on-one chats with members inside our online community. Sometimes it's an audio only, sometimes it's a video. You'll see there member call number 91. How to disagree agreeably, Kareem's tips for collegiate committees. There's a little sneak peek there at what might be coming up later today. So full library there of our member calls. Those transcripts are there. I've always been there for members. What's going to be new for our members? You have the replays of our Facebook Live videos in here. You can see me last week there where I was talking about the 3 ways that my Strata committee is honoring its commitment to radical transparency. What the team has decided to do in response to your requests is when you click through here, I think if I press the right button, no, that's not going to take you to where you need to go. But if you click through there, you'll get to the replay of the video, and then you'll see the links under that video, which will now include a transcript for you. So we're kicking off those transcripts in there for our members inside our member video library. You let me know if you find that handy and helpful. I know so many of you like to save this content, save those transcripts to come back to. I've heard of members and viewers who have folders, Google Drive folders, Dropbox folders that say Amanda Farmer Strata, and all of those resources are in there, which I think is a fabulous idea that you've got everything handy there for you. Kristen saying, wow, thanks, Amanda. My pleasure, Kristen. Thank you. Thank you for your support. Sean saying, good afternoon. Good afternoon to you too, Sean. Margaret saying, happy Friday. Happy Friday, Margaret. Excellent. If you're coming in, I can see those eyes there. If you're coming in and you want to say hi, I always like to see you. So transcripts there of these Friday Live sessions now available to our members inside our member video library. I will come back. Those of you who are saying, but I'm not a member and I want to get the transcript, I will come back towards the end of today's chat and let you know how you can become a member and how you can take up a special summer bonus that I have available to you today for everyone who's going to be joining us inside the membership within the next week. So stay tuned for that one. Very soon, I'll be welcoming in our special guest. I can see Megan saying, hi, Strata friends. Hey, Megan. Happy Friday to you, Shana, who is coming in. I've been listening, just juggling, watching, looking after granddaughter. Excellent. Feel free to keep juggling and listening in there, Shana. Last week, I shared a big win for one of the clients of my legal practice. And if you were here last week, you'll know that was to do with some tribunal orders that were made in my client's favor to prevent her chain smoking neighbors from smoking and indeed burning incense on the balcony of their lot. And very happy client, so happy to the extent that my client has actually penned a blog. And I have her permission to share this particular blog with you. We have the link for you, which we'll put into the chat. And I'll actually go over and just show you what it looks like when you hit that link. With my client's permission, I can now reveal that she is a female. You will see her name when you hit this page, not her full name, but her first name when you hit this page here. Her name happens to be Amanda. And she has generously written a reasonably lengthy account of her experience with smoking in Strata. And I'm not going to go through all of it, but I'll leave it to those of you who are interested in or suffering from this kind of a nuisance. It is a legal nuisance in New South Wales. And Amanda very helpfully, I think, details the type of evidence that she put together to prove her case, the burdens and battles that she faced when this application, when we ultimately filed it, was quite vigorously defended by her neighbours. Her medical records were subpoenaed during the course of proceedings. And she very openly records this otherwise public information here in her blog. Link there for you in the comments. Something else that I have Amanda's express permission to share with you is that my team, my legal team, was representing Amanda in these proceedings and helped guide her. And Amanda's posted in, as part of her blog, such a lovely comment, lovely feedback about our service. She said here, I had the most incredible all-female legal team who were passionate advocates for me and my case and were able to dismantle the respondents' petty schoolyard bullying with razor-sharp intellect and scathing critique. They are legit queens, and I am in awe of all of them. Very kind of Amanda to record that. When she talks about our all-female legal team, she's talking about Michelle, who's my EA in our legal practice, and our barrister, Michelle Daniels of Fourth Floor Selborne Chambers. Yes, the team was 2 Amandas and 2 Michelles. You can just only imagine how confusing that was on email. But this is the case in which Amanda got great support also from our online community, and particularly from Brenton Pittman and Lynette Cartwright. I spoke about that last week, and there's a special thank you at the end of this blog for Brenton and Lynette as well. But I haven't seen anything like this before, as somebody sharing so openly in such detail their Strata success. And as I said in my email this afternoon, that is what I love about our modern technology, that it's so easy to do that and to be able to share our wins, to share our support, to share our guidance. And that I just think it's amazing. There was an A and a B there, but I lost the B. Michelle Annette is saying 2 Amandas, 2 Michelles. We had to use initials. Yeah, we did. That's how it worked. But thank you to the Amanda, who knows who she is, for allowing me to share that and for sharing that information with our community and the wider Strata community. I know it's going to be really helpful for so many people. All right, it is time. It is time to welcome in our guest for this week. And I can tell by how many eyes we got here live that today's topic, today's promises have piqued your interest. Our guest this week is Kareem Tawansi. Kareem is a tech entrepreneur with over 30 years experience building highly innovative, sometimes world first, digital platforms for use by both businesses and consumers. Kareem has a degree in psychology and computer science. I want you to listen carefully to Kareem's skill set here, because it may have some hints as to why he and his community are so successful when it comes to strata issues. Kareem is a graduate of the Australian Institute of Company Directors. He sits on advisory boards with a specialty in digital technologies, innovation, and cybersecurity. Now, Kareem says that he discovered the joys, and in Kareem's notes here, joys in quotation marks, of strata management about 4 years ago, after noticing many years before that this space is quite far behind when it comes to tech. Kareem's been the owner of a strata property since 2003. And I say Kareem is one of those committee members who we all wish for. Someone who is experienced in corporate governance, who is tech savvy, who is energetic, who is forward thinking. Kareem has also given me his permission to share that his Strata committee are members of the Your Strata Property online membership community. You will have seen on the screen earlier that Kareem and I have previously had a one-on-one chat inside the membership. And if you want to hear more from Kareem after today, then our members can definitely access the recording of that chat in the member video library. I titled that chat, How to Disagree Agreeably. And Kareem might be able to share some of that with us today as he joins us. Welcome, Kareem.
Hi, Amanda. Very happy to be here today.
So happy to have you here with us, Kareem. As I can see, those who are here live tuning in are too keen to hear from you. Now, I've just given a bit of your background there. I'm going to invite you to share a bit more about you, maybe about your building, your position on the Strata committee. I know that you're involved in a few committees across a few buildings. So fill us in on your Strata background.
Okay, so as you mentioned, the property in which I live, I've had since 2003. I'm actually involved in 4 buildings. I'm the secretary of 2. So the one I'm in is 54 lots. And the other one that I'm secretary of is 164 lots. So I think there's a bit of a division between 101 and sub 100. Yep. So there's slightly different legislation around there. They actually operate quite differently, which is interesting for me because I get to see a sort of a diverse set of challenges to deal with, but I also am working with two very different committees. Thankfully, though, both committees are very constructive and things are being done in both buildings, but in quite a different way. So, and one of the things I've been doing is trying to use technology to help the buildings. And I won't go into any detail right now, but it does make a bit of difference from an organisational perspective, because I think there's a lot of organisational matters involved in Strata, and some of those things, I think, if not handled correctly, can cause some friction. And that's sort of part of what I'm trying to do, is to try to take out that friction from people's lives who live in Strata.
Yeah. Well, look, speak to the tech to the extent that you're comfortable with, that you're using. I know that it's very likely that we'll have you back on the show, whether it's on a podcast or on a Friday Live chat in the future, to talk about some of those innovations, let's say when the time is right. Today, I wanted to dig a little deeper into a specific project that your building has been working on, and some wins and some challenges you've had around that. Before I get there, tell us what you said. You live in Strata, you sit on 4 committees, you own in a couple of different Strata buildings. I'm going to make the assumption that you like living in Strata, that you like owning in Strata. So what is it? What attracts you to this property?
Strata's wonderful. It's wonderful, but it's also crazy at the same time. I came across you about 4 years ago, and prior to that, I was probably like most owners. I really kind of avoided it. I didn't really think about it, and the mindset I had was that I live in a space that is mine, like a house connected to a whole bunch of other houses. I didn't really have any concept of the fact that I don't really own. I don't own my apartment as such. I'm a part owner of all the common property, and nor did I have any understanding of all the legislation that governs it and the idea of true communal living. So the last 4 years since coming across you has been a real journey for me in discovering the ins and outs of Strata. Now, I'm not a trained lawyer, although I have spent, in my career, I've spent a lot of time with lawyers, but I have spent quite a bit of time trying to get my head around the related law. I'm based in New South Wales, obviously, so it's the Strata Management Act, I think it is, Strata Schemes Management Act 2015. So there's a lot of that involved. And as I was saying off camera, I was out on Friday night seeing a band, and I was half thinking about the music and half thinking about Strata. So that's
I said, welcome to my life. Constant.
And I think the thing about Strata is it's one of these things where there's a lot of rules. I mean, ultimately, Strata is about rules, and those rules are either in legislation or in bylaws. But the funny thing about it, where the friction comes from, is I think people treat it a lot more subjectively than that. It's a lot more personal, because this is a very large investment for them. And so it does create some friction. Now, with regards to living in Strata, I live in Surrey Hills, and for anybody that's spent any time in Surrey Hills has lots of very beautiful terrace houses. And I've lived in 4 terrace houses in my life, and I can tell you the best part of a terrace house is the outside. They're very pretty to look at, but they're not great to live in, regardless of whether or not they're renovated. And I apologise if any of the viewers love their terrace houses. Maybe I've been unlucky. But I love living in Surrey Hills. So my choice is either live in a terrace house and all the things that go with that, or live in an apartment. And so so I live in an apartment that looks, well, actually it's a bit high, so it looks down onto the terrace houses. So it's sort of the best of both worlds for me, really. The only challenge, of course, is navigating through all the issues around Strata. And so that's something that I've been getting better at. And at some point, we're going to talk about what my AGM, which occurred last week, because there's a bit of a story with that.
Yeah, look, I think we can jump straight into that. I know you were tuning into Friday Live last week, and I was talking about my AGM that I attended a few days prior, and I was saying it went for 40 minutes. It was fantastic, and we all sort of had our flak jackets on and were prepared for a bit of conflict. Didn't happen, and I spoke to how we were able to manage that. And you were there, Kareem, live, and everyone's going to know who you are now. You posted in ours went, well, I think it was 3 hours, was it?
3 hours, yeah. 3 hours.
All right. So maybe take us back a few steps as to why you were having a 3-hour AGM, what this important topic was. What is this project that your building has been working on?
Okay, so our building was built in the late 80s, and as you can imagine, it's dated a bit. Well, it's dated quite a bit. And meanwhile, while all the beautiful terraces have been upgraded on it's double fronted, so on both of the streets, all the terraces are all renovated and they all look really nice. Our building still has an 80s look. So previous versions of the Strata Committee decided that we were going to embark on a journey of upgrades and some renovations. And so that was divided up into stages. And stage one was an internal courtyard uplift, and that happened sort of 2013, which is a whole decade ago. And then the committee obviously was starting to plan stage two, which was the external upgrade. Now, meanwhile, there's been a whole bunch of things going on at the committee level. And by the way, I hadn't joined the committee at this stage. I didn't really know much about this details of what was going on until I looked back once I had joined the committee. And so apparently there was all kinds of fights between various committee members. So we had engaged an architect. He put together some designs, and I think that started in 2016, 17. But come 2019, we still hadn't made any progress. And I was invited by a committee member to join the renovations working group or subcommittee. So I got involved with that. And then I joined the committee in November 2019. And then, of course, so we started the process to push the project forward. And then COVID hit and everything sort of slowed down. So post-COVID, I picked up the mantle, kept on pushing and pushing, and I did thousands of hours worth of work. And you can imagine there's so many moving parts here. So, of course, you've got all the funding on one side, and then you've got all the works on the other. And because we hadn't been spending money on the building as we should be, and for reasons that I don't pass any judgment on because I wasn't involved with previous decisions, we sort of had a backlog of remediation work. So we had sort of remediation work, renovation work, but on top of that, we had the whole insurance drama that everybody else, I think, has been going through, where our insurance company said, you've got some engineering reports here that says you have all these structural issues, and if you don't get them fixed, we're not going to reinsure you. So when that was discussed, of course, that threw the cat amongst the pigeons with regards to the owners worrying about losing insurance. So we had all these things going on. And meanwhile, we had a cohort of newer owners buy into the building at the height of COVID. So they probably paid quite a bit, but interest rates were low. A portion of those new owners, as things progressed, were resistant to spending extra money on renovations. So we ended up with a schism in the building. And so there were a lot of the existing owners who have known about these renovations for some time, and a portion of the new owners who have bought in knowing renovations were going to occur. But there was also a portion of the new owners who didn't want the renovations to occur, at least not now. And so we had all these sort of, if you like, disagreements around what we should do, when we should do it, how much it will cost, et cetera, et cetera. So then, of course, I mean, it took a long time to get all the information together to put together a motion for the AGM. But finally, with the assistance of some other owners, we put together the pack, created an appendix to the agenda, and we put it out for a collection of votes. And so what I learned along the way is, even though we had approved the designs and changing of common property by special resolution in 2019, we needed an ordinary resolution for the funding. So we just needed a 50% vote to get this over the line. So this is when I submitted for the first time.
Can I just stop you there, Kareem, and just clarify for our viewers? So we're talking about this project involved repair and maintenance work that needed to be done and was long overdue. It also involved upgrading. I think you mentioned it was the facade of the building, the external, basically prettying the building up.
Yep.
And you needed to borrow funds to do all of the above.
So we had actually saved quite a bit in our capital works fund, and then the question was, what were we going to do to fund the gap? And we looked into Strata loans, the hybrid loan company whose name escapes me, but Strata, which I picked up from watching your shows. But there was a bit of trepidation among some of the owners around actually having a loan going, because it's not the thought process was it wasn't a good look to have a loan. So what I was trying to do was to come up with a solution where try to take into account all the various thought processes. And so we have a particular DA, it has a scope of works, but my understanding was we've got 5 years from the time we start the project to the time we end the project to get all the scope done. So what I ended up doing was proposing a reduced scope. It had most things in it, but we just took one or two things, big ticket items out to bring down the cost. And then to fill the gap, we would have a special levy that would be amortized over a long period. And so that's what I brought to the owners corporation at the AGM, rather than a strata loan, if that makes sense.
Right. And so you were your AGM that happened last week. You were bringing a motion. You'd
Last
already
Wednesday.
passed the special resolutions for the upgrade work. Otherwise, this was repair and maintenance work, so we didn't need a special resolution. But you do need a resolution for the funding. And what was being proposed, was it just the one option on the table, special levy?
Yes, it was just, but yeah, that was the only option. We didn't go with, well, we couldn't do a hybrid loan because it wasn't enough. So we could do a regular loan, but I took on board. I think it's really important when you've got 54 owners, you've got so many different opinions. So what I was trying to do was to cater as many as possible. And so I sort of got let's call it feedback from one side saying, we don't want to spend any money, and you're sort of pushing to spend money. And then I have it from the other side saying, well, we want all the renovations, and you're capitulating to the other side. So sometimes when you annoy everybody, it's probably because you're doing the right thing. So I was so what I brought in the end was what I thought was the best possible compromise to get as many people over the line as possible.
And did you have any formal process for gathering this feedback or asking for this feedback? Or are there committee meetings happening here where owners are being kept up to date? How's that working?
Okay, great question. Again, and it's probably under the headline of radical transparency. So I ended up becoming the Strata committee, the secretary by default, because our actual secretary had some health issues and had to step back. And I remember listening to you about making sure that you engage as many people as possible. And so I think sometimes people sometimes think the best thing is not to engage people too early, because they'll start to give you negative feedback and slow you down. The reality is that that's going to come anyway. So you might as well engage people early on in the piece. And so I was very active in inviting people to come to Strata committee meetings, and then also inviting them to speak at meetings. We created a building-wide WhatsApp group, but there was some discussions going on there. And then I held a few town halls as well. So I'd just hop online, send out links to people, and people could ask questions, and I'd point them to the direction where all the content was, etc. So that was ongoing, and that was probably 18 months worth of effort there in terms of, 18 months from beginning to the AGM.
So you put the agenda pack together. It has this proposal for a special levy to fill this gap in funding. The agenda goes out. You've got, by law, at least 7 days. The owners are sitting with that agenda. What's happening in that period before the AGM? You getting angry emails, text messages, knocks on the door?
So you know the questions to ask, don't you? So it came down to 3 motions, and the first motion. So what we did was I partitioned off the motion that addressed the items that the insurance company had raised, and the good news was it was only about 35K. So I knew that motion was going to be a no-brainer. I don't think there was going to be any hesitation around that one. Then the next 2 motions, one was the money, and then 2, and the advice I got from our strata manager was also get approval for the preferred builder, because you don't want to be making that decision without the owners corporation. So those 2 are sort of hand in hand. Meanwhile, there was conversations going on about it. There were questions being asked, and you can imagine at this point there were 2 camps, and I was the public face of the pro-renovations camp. But if you like, the leader of the other camp was quite a formidable opponent. He is very articulate, very well educated, has a law degree, but is a journalist for one of the major newspapers, son of a law professor. Very, very good at saying what he wants to say in a really calm fashion, which is very important in Strata, because you lose your cool and you sort of lose your audience a bit. And he was one of the newer owners, and he said quite openly that he didn't really want to be spending the money. Now, what I have pieced together since then is that there was his camp, and then there was my camp, and then there was the unknowns, and then there was the people that were known but were sort of in between. And really, that was the battleground for the people in
like
between.
any good political exercise.
I never signed up to be a politician, but I found
Nope.
myself being a politician.
Yeah.
And I think the interesting thing about all of this was the one thing about this, it's a very emotional topic because you have people who've spent so much of their money to buy a property that they think it's their home, right? And they feel that they should be allowed to do what they want to do with it. And they certainly don't want somebody else making decisions that's going to impact them, which I totally understand. But that's the reality of Strata. And so there is so many emotional arguments going on. You know, it's all right for you. I had two owners having a debate at the AGM. It's okay for you because you've paid off your mortgage. Well, then the response from the other owner was, you vote your way and I'll vote my way. And so there was quite a bit of that going on. My opponent, on the other hand, though, he kept his calm and he put it all together. He put together an alternative number set, which I didn't see, or he hadn't distributed until the AGM. So I walk into the AGM and he's handing out this two-page thing that he'd put together. His partner is an economist at UBS or one of the big banks, and she'd helped him, and so he's now trying to coax people into his camp, which is let's not spend money, or let's spend the least amount of money possible. So I thought, this is going to be interesting. I knew I had some votes. We had some proxies, but I also knew, because I was a secretary, that he had some proxies. And then I walked into the room, and there were more people than I expected. So there was a whole bunch of people. I had no idea which way they were going to vote. And at that point, I thought to myself, oh no, this may not go well. And remember, of course, that I had been the face of this for many years. So there was a little bit of personal pride in it, but I did make it really clear to everybody that I had a job to do. And if the owners didn't want to go forward, then I would totally accept that. You know, there'd be no sour grapes. As long as everybody was well informed and they make the decision, I would accept it. And I made sure that I felt that too, because, you know, egos can creep into things and you can end up behaving in a way that's not really best for the owners. And I actually said that to the owners publicly. And to be fair, I mean, they were very kind to clap for me, including owners that were against the renovations. And I was quite impressed that they could at least appreciated the work I'd done.
Yeah. And I think that's a really important exercise to engage in, taking your own personal preferences, certainly your ego, out of these exercises where you are the leader of a subcommittee, or where you are the committee secretary and you're driving something. At some point, you do need to say, ultimately, this is a democratic process and it's a decision of the owners at that meeting. And whatever they decide has nothing to do with me or what they think about me or what I've done or haven't done, at least up to that point. And that can be quite freeing. You know, I find that when I'm telling clients that, and I do the same thing at meetings, say, look, put the motion to the vote. It is what it is. There's no point back and forth anymore. That can be a way of freeing yourself of that burden of responsibility, I suppose, for the outcome.
So to that very point, I think part of what kept me calm was remembering some of the things that you had said in some of your podcasts. And I remember some of the things I took away from your podcast include being transparent, but also, and just the style that I've picked up from you. I mean, you're a lawyer dealing with Strata, and you managed to do it with a smile on your face. And so, and I think that's really important, because at the end of the day, we're just all people trying to live together. It's not something that we should, you know, have running battles over, even if we have a difference of opinion. So I was really careful about making sure that I was respectful to everybody, that I was as transparent as I possibly can. I tried not. I didn't take anything personally. Just because somebody doesn't agree with me doesn't mean they're a bad person. They just have a different point of view. And and these things, I think, require a little bit of training, though. I think, in the sense that, I mean, I do spend a lot of time sort of, you know, studying psychology, like continuing studying psychology. I did my degree 30 years ago, so things have moved on since then. But there's quite a bit of social science around a whole bunch of things. But also in terms of, if you attack somebody, the first thing they're going to do, they're not going to listen to you. They're going to defend themselves. If I want people to listen to me, I cannot attack them. And so when it came to the actual meeting, it all started off very cordial and people were being sort of nice to each other. But then came the two motions up on the agenda. And well, actually, we started with the very first one, the one that wasn't controversial, but then it just sort of bled over into the big issue. And there had been some what's the word, some feedback around the order at which I, as the secretary, had ordered the AGM. And I'd ordered it in accordance with the way I thought the meeting may go. Some people weren't happy with that, and that was discussed. And so we sort of agreed to discuss a whole bunch of motions all at the same time. And so I did my bit. I sort of took some people on the journey. I opened to the floor for questions. I got some questions from both sides. I did my best to answer them, and then sat down. And of course, my opponent stood up and put forward the alternative position. And it went on for some time. Between the two of us, probably it would have been, I don't know, 45, 50 minutes. And then there was, what are we going to vote on? And some people were trying to defer the vote. Some were trying to change the motion. In the end, we agreed to vote on the motion because we were never going to really know until we had the vote. Now, about 5 motions earlier, there was a motion about increasing our levies to top up our admin fund. And I thought that was going to be a bit of a bellwether for which way it was going to go.
Right.
And so we had this discussion, and the proposal was to put in extra 200 grand. There was a counter proposal from those that want to spend less, and it ended up at 170. That was put for a vote, and those that wanted to spend less won that vote. It went 11-12, I think. So at this point, I'm thinking, oh no, this isn't looking good. So obviously, this vote was coming up. I was feeling a little bit nervous, but we finally put it to a vote, and it ended up going 12 against, 18 for.
And that was for, let me just clarify, because you said earlier that you partitioned the motions, which I thought was clever. You had a motion for the necessary remedial work that the insurer said you had to do. It's approving about 35K's worth. And then I imagine you had a separate motion for the upgrade renovation work, funding that additional work. So how did each tranche go?
So the first one was 100%. Nobody argued that one.
Right.
And the second one was the 12-18. And then the third one was the builder. And then actually a few people sort of flipped, and I think it was 20-10 or something. What I didn't tell the viewers was that it was about $2.7 million of upgrades. So that meant that a special levy was going to be in the order of tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And so it's not, and so when you're asking people to come up with tens of thousands of dollars, it's not something that they can just sort of pull aside from their regular pay packet. So, I mean, people knew this was coming, and it's been discussed for years, but it's still a significant amount of money, I think, for most people.
Mm. Well, congratulations on getting that across the line. And thank you for sort of sharing the steps leading up to that and the work that went into getting that result, which on one view was pretty borderline and could have gone either way. And I often find I've been in situations with clients before who are trying to get fairly simple renovation works projects across the line, and it can be 1 or 2 votes difference in their favor. And it is that work that they've done in the lead up, getting certain people to a meeting, putting packs together, answering questions ahead of time, that is really the difference between that motion succeeding and that motion failing. So excellent work.
Thank you. Thank you. It took me about 3 days to unwind and actually get a good night's sleep again.
I'm sure. Now, a few questions here. Megan is asking, are there any specific soft skills training that you would recommend for committee representatives? I'm assuming that's a question for you, Kareem, also with your psychology expertise. It would be great to see more of this, Megan says, measured and egoless leadership in Strata.
Yes. Okay. So specifically for Strata, no, but there's a bunch of people that I do follow that I get a lot of this stuff from. I mean, everybody knows, well, many people know Brene Brown. There is a relationship expert who's a psychologist called Dr. Wendy Walsh, who I follow. She's about relationships, but she talks about some of the things that go on in people's heads in terms of reactions to conversations, etc. So I think it's really, the whole area is all about how people listen to what you say, and there's quite a bit of content out there around ways to communicate better. But they're probably the two that come off the top of my head: Brene Brown and Dr. Wendy Walsh, both American, of course, so it's not local. But specifically for Strata, I don't know of any other than as I said, the things I've been learning from you, and obviously we are members, and so we use our membership benefits. I spend a lot of time on your portal, reading, and I've asked you a number of questions anonymously, always get an answer within 2 or 3 days, and it's always clear. But I also noticed that some of the conversation from other members is really beneficial. So I can tell there's some pretty switched on people on that forum. So I find that to be really useful as well. Hopefully that helps.
Yes, thank you for those tips, and thank you, Megan, for that great question. Kareem, you had said to me when you reached out to let me know sort of what the result of the meeting was, you mentioned also that there were some preliminary discussions maybe about solar or EV charging or something along those lines, even though that wasn't on the agenda. Can you speak a bit to that?
Actually, one of them was on the agenda, which was EV charging, and I'll get to that.
Oh, great.
In a previous AGM, I think I may have missed this one, we approved the concept of getting solar. The problem is that we have to replace our roof to put the solar panels onto it. So unfortunately, that puts the roof replacement as a precursor to the solar. The roof replacement is not going to be inexpensive, but there's a few more years left in the roof, so that's going to come after the renovation. So it's an aging building, but in a fantastic location. So if hopefully when we get to do all these things, it's going to be an amazing building. What we have done, and we've reached out, I don't want to necessarily plug another business, but there's a consulting. There's a consulting company called Wattblock, and the principal there is a guy called Brent Clark, and we engaged. So building the Surrey Hills building engaged Brent a few years ago to do some analysis on our building. He came back, gave us some recommendations, ran a competitive process for us last year, gave us a recommendation. So we were about to put that to an EGM, and there was a whole bunch of conversations about, it's too early, it's a lot of money. And just to give you a little bit of context, the solutions that we were looking for was to manage the power coming centrally into the building, and then from the centrally managed location, at a lot owner's expense, they could then wire out to their own parking spot. So that central bit was about $120,000, and then to wire to your own, and that would be shared. That's an owner's corporation cost. And then if you wanted to wire in your own parking spot, that's another $3,000 to $5,000, but at your expense, in your own time. So there was a whole bunch of conversation around that, and is the timing right? Meanwhile, we had 2 or 3 owners now who had EVs, and that number has increased. And so I had put together an EGM, and we were about to, the early, because it was online voting, the early numbers indicated that it was going to go through. But then when the insurance came up, that number dropped, and it wasn't going to pass. So what happened was, one of the owners who has an EV found the New South Wales government grant form. So we've applied for that grant. And so the motion that actually ended up in the AGM was based on us actually getting that grant. So if we get that grant, the owners corporation has agreed to pay the balance. If we don't, then we have to start again. So it's possible that we'll get it straight up. Otherwise, we might have to go back and try again. With regards to connecting solar to EV charging, which is the Holy Grail, I hope we'll get there one day, but that's probably a few years away in our particular building.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm happy that you've mentioned Brent Clark and Wattblock. I was chatting to Brent just a couple of days ago. We've recorded a podcast episode because he's doing a lot of exciting things in terms of mapping where buildings are located that have solar, EV, other sustainable infrastructure installations, and really being clear and spreading, I think, the important message that these buildings that have these additions are indeed, we've already got the data coming through, more valuable. People are paying more money to buy these apartments. Renters are paying more rent to rent in these buildings. So, and Brent actually said, solar, I think there might only be maybe one building that he's come across that powers their EV charging with solar. So you're right. Wow. That is the Holy Grail. Yeah.
The Holy Grail. Yeah, and we've now in my other the 164 building, we've just engaged Brent to do the same thing. So it's happening. He's going to be a very busy man, I think.
I think he already is.
I'm assuming he's got a team. I don't know, but he fronts it. But yeah, everybody talks about it. So that's the way to go, I think.
Now, Kareem, Thank you for sharing that experience. I want to see if we can leave our viewers with maybe top three recommendations for other committee members, other owners, indeed, who might see themselves in your position or might be in your position in the future, trying to get these valuable projects across the line. What are three top things that now, with the benefit of hindsight, you can say, make sure you do this?
Okay. I would say, obviously, the radical transparency that you talked about. Do not do it in any kind of clandestine, hidden way. There is that mindset that I'll just go and do it, and then I'll present it to people, and they'll have no choice. I don't think that's the right way to do it. So there's that. I think the more people that you can get involved in the tasks, the better. So that way, it's not one of the probably things that I've learned was I was the face of it and of the renovations in my building, but I didn't start the renovations. It wasn't my idea, but I ended up being the face, and I had to sort of diversify that a little bit. So get people, get a nice group of people getting involved, and maybe allocate the work to different people, and really listen. Because if we pushed forward with the full scope, I don't think it would have passed. So you really got to have use that empathy muscle, as I like to say, and take on board what everybody has to say, because these are the people that you live with, right? If you're an owner-occupier. If not, if they're not the people you live with, they're the people you're in business with. So really sort of go for that sort of diverse input and have some empathy for all the different mindsets. I think the other thing is, irregardless of how people behave, when anybody treats you badly, that's about them, not about you. And so the key to that is to stay calm under all circumstances. Don't lose your cool. Don't take it personally. Let's reflect it back to them. It's about them. They have their reasons for behaving that way, and it's not you. And that might sound obvious, but in the heat of battle, I think sometimes people just forget that it's not as personal as we think.
Oh, that is so true. And thank you for reminding us of that. I also love what you said about, even if you don't live in the building, you're an investor, then these are people, other owners are people you're in business with. And I really like that take, because I was chatting on another podcast last week, and I've got a short video snippet from it on this on the Facebook page, and I think I put it on LinkedIn as well, where there's a caption of me saying, Strata is so unusual because you have these disputes, you have this conflict, and then you got to go home and see these people and live with them and park next to them and share the lift with them. So that's why I think, as a lawyer, the conflicts can reach such fever pitch. And when you characterize this as not only people necessarily you're living with, but people you're in business with, it's one of those golden rules of like small business, isn't it? Don't employ a family member, because it just doesn't work. That's what's happening in Strata, unavoidably happening in Strata, isn't it?
Absolutely. This is I often say it's a multi-million-dollar asset, and it needs to be governed and managed like one. And that a lot of people don't necessarily get that at first. So I think we have to think very carefully about that, and we also have to think about the fact that we are in business with other people, and we need to be thinking about their assets too. So it's it's multifaceted. That's why when you ask me what I thought about Strata, just to bring it all back to the beginning, the more I get into it, the more I really do I like it. I'm certainly fascinated by it. I'm fascinated by it. It's got so many moving parts, and I do believe that. Apparently, I was told that we in Australia, specifically New South Wales, have some of the most advanced strata laws in the world. Okay, so as bad as it might be here, it's worse everywhere else. So we are kind of trailblazers, and I think with a combination of education and the implementation of good technology, we can make Strata much easier to live in, and I can see why. So I'm actually really excited about where Strata could go, and I can, through watching your shows and listening to your podcast, there's some really interesting, proactive people doing things to improve Strata. So I'm excited about that.
And I'm excited to see what you have in store for the future, Kareem, when it comes to the tech that you're using, that you're investing in for your community, that you're building even. And I would love to have you back to share more about that when the time is right. And I'm so pleased to have a fellow positive positive Strata dweller and investor here on the show. So thank you for being here to share your energy and your positivity. I'm going to let you out into your weekend. I am going to stick around a little longer, so don't go anywhere, anybody, to share a special opportunity with you that I gave you a hint about earlier at the top of the chat. Kareem, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thanks very much for your time today, Amanda.
Catch you next time. Kareem Tawansi, fantastic Strata committee member, leader in his community, sharing not just the win that he had, but also the challenges on the way to that win, which I think is all part of the learning, a really important part of the learning that we do here. I'm seeing Anna's comment saying, I wish a lot of people thought that way. Kareem, Penny's saying thank you to Kareem and Amanda. Thank you, Penny. Bill and Ben, how you doing? I haven't said hello yet. To fully charge a Nissan Leaf with a 40 kilowatt hour battery using power from your solar panels, you need a dedicated 10 kilowatt solar system and around 26 panels. Good to know. Thank you. Helpful information. And Alan saying, when a meeting is held regarding the raising of funds, special levies, owners you've never met attend the meeting. Yes, I've been in that situation too, Kareem, when you've been expecting a certain group of owners to turn up, and then because of what's on the agenda, you get some different faces in the room, which, as you say, is always a good thing to be engaging as many owners as possible. Now, earlier today, I mentioned our online membership community, and you've heard Kareem mention it a few times as well. He's mentioned the support, the education, the resources that he's been able to tap into together with his committee members from being with us on the inside. There are often questions here on live, not just questions about Strata topics that we don't get to, but questions from you about what this membership is all about. How can you join us and how can you find out more? Now, I have seen this play out year after year. We've been running the membership for about 7 years now. And the summer holidays, this time of year, is the time, I guess, that you stop, that you take a breath, that you take a moment to regroup. You might have had a tough year in your building or buildings that you're managing. You start Googling. Owners start Googling, start researching. You've got a bit more time on your hands. You're reading Strata articles. You're getting curious, the kind of thing that Kareem was doing 4 years ago. And because of that, I see a lot more activity on our membership platform over the summer break. We welcome in a lot of new members who are coming across what we have to offer. Whether you call it Christmas holidays, festive season, summer break, it is, I think, a really good time to get clear on what you want your Strata future to look like. You can call it a New Year's resolution if you're into that, promising yourself that things are going to be different next year, that you will get the support that you need to make hard decisions. Maybe that you're going to finally stand up to that bully chairperson, that yes, you're going to go and research the act so you know when your Strata manager is trying to pull the wool over your eyes. You might decide that you're going to take the time over the break to review those dusty old bylaws and put together a proposal to improve them in 2024. If you are not already a member inside the Your Strata Property online membership community, then this is, for all of those reasons, the perfect time to join us. And today, for the first time, I am making this announcement that there is a special opportunity for everyone who is with us inside the Your Strata Property online membership community by midnight next Wednesday, the 13th of December. Special opportunity. What is it? You've heard Kareem talk about solar. I've been talking about it within the last week. My building is looking at installing solar. I've got a podcast episode coming out in the new year with Brent Clark from What Block, where we talk about the uplift in property values that buildings with solar are seeing. So, hand in hand with that, for everyone who is inside our membership community by midnight next Wednesday, the 13th of December, I will be gifting you my Solar for Strata legal toolkit. Now, this is a toolkit that is otherwise for sale on the public side of the website for $197. It's quite popular, Quite a few people pop in there each week and purchase that one. It's actually not even usually free to our members. A lot of our public templates that are paid for are otherwise free to members, but this one is not because it's just too valuable. But as a summer bonus, I am gifting everyone who's a member on the inside. That includes current members. I know there's so many members here today that do we get this, Amanda? Do we get this? Yes. Everyone who is a member inside our online community will get a copy of the Solar for Strata legal toolkit direct to their inbox on next Thursday morning. So the catch is that you've got to be with us on the inside by midnight next Wednesday, the 13th of December. Now, what does the Solar for Strata legal toolkit have in it? It's got everything that you need to successfully plan, to propose, to gain approval for your solar installation. Whether that is an installation on the roof, as Kareem was talking about, solar panels on the roof for the common areas to be solar powered, or whether it is an individual who wants to install solar just to power their lot, you can use this toolkit. You've got template motions and template bylaws for both of those setups. Each of the motions and bylaws comply with the sustainability infrastructure resolution provisions that we've got in our New South Wales legislation. There are 4 things that owners corporations must be considering before they approve sustainability infrastructure, and that's all there for you in the toolkit. It sets out the right voting thresholds to get these sustainability infrastructure resolutions across the line, and you've got some sample plans and sample technical specifications in there to attach to your motions and to your bylaw. I'm seeing Diane say, wow, cool. Interested in installing solar in your building, whether it's now or whether it's something that is into the future. This is not usually a resource that is available inside the membership for free. And I have members who go ahead and purchase this resource as well. But as a special summer bonus, it is something that I'm making available to all members, and that'll go out to everybody on Thursday morning. So get into the membership by midnight on Wednesday evening. Where do you go? Where do you go to do that? The page to visit is stratamembership.com. And Rochelle, who's helping me out here, will get that one into the comments there for you. I've told you that this Solar for Strata toolkit is selling on the website now for $197. Membership is just $67 a month. And that's no lock-in. You can cancel anytime. And next week, after Wednesday, I'm going to send you a copy of this toolkit. So you're immediately getting your month's worth of value right there. It's not the only thing that's available inside the membership. I gave you a quick look earlier at our member video library. That's where we put the recordings of my 1 hour, up to 1 hour, one-on-one sessions with Strata owners. We put them there inside the member video library, release them to all members each fortnight to have a listen to. It's a fly on the wall look at a conference between a Strata lawyer and an owner, where I'm going deep on a particular Strata question that owners have for me, walking them through. How do you lodge an application in the tribunal? What do you have to look out for with this particular bylaw clause? What is it that we can do about neighbors who are smoking on the balcony? What is it that we can do about a strata manager who's not quite performing under their contract? All of those things and more covered in our one-on-one member calls. Our forum, Kareem mentioned our forum, popping in there, posting questions, having a read of what other pretty savvy Strata owners, I agree, we have in the membership are posting there in the forum. That's where we see that summer holiday time, those free hours over the Christmas break being used up there as members dive in and catch up on those forum posts. We have discounts to our events. Our pro members at the moment are getting a 50% discount off the tickets to the one-day CPD event that's happening in Mudgee. So that's a huge discount. Many of our pro members getting the full value of their pro membership simply by being able to attend that event. So those opportunities are always made available to our members. Stratamembership.com is the place to go. Do that before midnight next Wednesday, the 13th of December. So you'll not only have my Strata support over the holiday break, you'll also snap up the Solar for Strata legal toolkit absolutely for free. If you don't need it now, you think you might need it in the future, this is going to be your best value opportunity to get access to it now. Shana saying, thank you, Amanda. That's a lovely Christmas gift. My pleasure, Shana. David saying, such great advice and a great case study from Kareem. Yes, indeed. Love those. When I have a member like Kareem pop into my inbox, and it often comes about after we do have an online chat that's then posted or published to our member library. It's my practice to swing back around to members and say, hey, posting this chat, we had this chat a few months ago. How did it all turn out? And the timing was good for that when Kareem was able to update me at that time and say, Amanda, this is where we're at. We're heading into our AGM. We're proposing the motions. We've finally got to this stage. And hopefully I'll have some good news for you next week, which Kareem did. And pretty much this week decision, I think it was, to have Kareem join us here on the show. He was available and to share his expertise and his experience. So happy to do that for you when we can. Michelle says that's an incredible bonus. Thank you, Amanda. My pleasure. Thank you, everybody, for joining me here for Friday Live on this rather warm, the aircon's really working hard in this room, I can tell you, rather warm December afternoon. I will be back with you for a final, I think it'll be a final official, let's say final official live appearance here on the page for 2023 next week. Next Friday, I'll be here. I'll let you all out into another fantastic, positive, energized, happy weekend in Strata. Thanks, everyone. Catch you next time.